Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for another Hot Toys Secret Base figure preview video. Now before we begin, I do as always have to say a huge thank you to Ryan Kirkwood for going out in person and snapping these gorgeous high-res pictures. Show Ryan some love in the comments below, cause without him, this series quite literally wouldn't be possible. If you are heading down to the description, why not hit that subscribe, bell notification icon and join button, so you're notified as soon as a brand new video goes live on the channel. Also, if you are looking to pre-order your very own ATRT, either on its own or with an ARF trooper, I have popped the link for that in the description below with toyswonderland.com. They do have installment plans and a points-based reward system. Now, this is kind of an interesting pre-order, and it's going to be an interesting video too. Hot Toys, for some weird reason, never put the Heavy Weapons Clone Trooper and Bark Speeder on display, but they popped just the Heavy Weapons Trooper in front of the ATRT, so we may as well take this opportunity and look at him first. The thing that makes this even more peculiar is you can't even buy the Heavy Weapons Clone Trooper on his own, you have to get him with the Bark Speeder. They've kind of done the same thing with the ATRT too, but I know more than a few people out there collect these clones to army build, and when you saddle them quite literally to a 2-pack with a vehicle, it kind of makes the whole idea of building your clone army in 1/6 scale just that little bit more difficult. Now, I hope that going forward, when Hot Toys does this vehicle and clone trooper pack set, maybe they can consider, depending on the trooper, doesn't have to be with everyone, but for popular variants, maybe allow us to buy the troopers separately. It's always a good option to have. Now, I love the way this guy looks. He's kind of got that Commander Cody-esque helmet with the visor, but doesn't have the antenna on the side, so it's a little bit different. The armor, of course, is the 501st armor, a fan favorite. I dig it as well. For those of you who don't know, blue is my favorite color, and like I said, I'm all about clone troopers, so it's pretty much a match made in heaven. Now, he does have some embellishments. He's got this pauldron, this pleather-like piece over his chest plate, and the strap with the little grenades. So it's not just a standard 501st clone trooper by any means. He also has a holster with a little DC-17 blaster pistol. A nice touch, and like I said, something just a little bit different. I would have absolutely loved to have gotten 3, 4, 5 of these guys, added them to the collection, even though my clone shelf is relatively full, but do let me know what you think of this guy down below. By the way, if Hot Toys does ever eventually end up putting this guy out on display with the Bark Speeder, you bet I'll be doing a figure preview video on him all over again, don't you worry. He doesn't have any of the bits and pieces on display here, no additional hands, no display base, no additional weapons, so there's definitely a little bit of meat on the bone for another preview video. Now, the armor is well weathered. Of course it is. These clones weren't brand new, otherwise he'd be called a shiny. Speaking of which, Hot Toys, what's taking so long? We need some shinies, some bright white glossy clone troopers for the collection. He also is pictured here with this kind of rock-like thing on his foot. Not the display base he's coming with, nobody freak out, it's just a little bit that they've stuck onto the foot to keep him standing in this display. Overall though, really happy with the Heavy Weapons Clone Trooper. He looks fantastic. He's going to pop in the display because he's a variant. He's not just another run-of-the-mill 501st Trooper. He's something different. I'm all about variants. Hot Toys, please. Make more variant Clone Troopers going forward because this is the stuff right here. Now, there is just one complaint that people have been having with the Clone Trooper armor, and we will be getting to that in just a second. Moving on to the ATRT and the ARF Trooper, though. You heard that correctly, ARF, A-R-F, not ARC Trooper, that's something entirely different. I've been waiting for an ARF Trooper in 1/6 scale forever, and finally Hot Toys have made one. Is he 100% perfect though? Well, that's going to be up to you, but for me at least, like with the Heavy Weapons Trooper, yeah, I'm pretty darn happy. I love that helmet, it's super different, it's another variant, you can build out your 501st army, but like I said at the intro, you are going to have to get multiple ATRTs if you want to get multiple ARF troopers. But the weirdest thing is, you can buy the ATRT separately. We will discuss my thoughts on that though a little bit later on, because we need to focus on this ARF trooper. He's pretty much just a standard 501st clone body. Hot Toys have gotten used to making clones by this point. They iterated, they changed a few things, they experimented with ratchets, and they experimented with friction joints too. In the end, they kind of arrived at what I like to see as the perfect 1/6 scale clone body. They've gotten it down to a science. So I have the utmost confidence that this guy is going to be fantastic. For those who don't know why this guy kind of looks like a hybrid between a clone trooper and a scout trooper, he kind of is a scout trooper. ARF stands for Advanced Recon Force, and then scout trooper or just trooper, so he's kind of the precursor to the scout troopers we got in episode 6. I love the small lenses and I love the visor, plus those pleather looking flaps on the sides of his helmet. Are they pleather? Are they sculpted? I don't know, fingers crossed they are fully sculpted. When it comes to the armor, I kind of am at a loss for words. I don't know what else to say. I've reviewed a bunch of these guys, and to try and think of new things to say each and every single time to describe the armor, yeah, it's getting a little bit tricky. This is the same armor as 501st. It's battle damaged, it's scratched, there's wear and tear on it. Hot Toys have been getting better and better when it comes to their battle damage paint applications, and this guy is no exception. I wouldn't be surprised if, for the prototype, they literally just grabbed a production copy of a 501st Trooper, popped a new helmet on, and Bob's your uncle. That's exactly what I would have done, because that's what this guy is made up of, a normal 501st Trooper body and a brand new helmet. Now, there is just one thing that people have been complaining about with the new troopers, and luckily it seems with this guy it's a non-issue. With the new, more modern clone troopers, they do have a split between the front chest plate and the back one. This guy has them still fused together, like I said, a non-issue, but even then, it may allow for more flexibility and range of motion, so for me at least, I don't really see it as a unanimously bad thing. But once again, let me know what you think down below. Now, some of the markings on this armor may be slightly different to the standard 501st Trooper. I kinda shot myself in the foot when I said this is the same as the regular 501st Trooper a bunch of times. I'm sure I'm going to be corrected down below, but nevertheless, the mold, the sculpt of the armor is identical. Now, moving on to the ATRT, this big chunky boy in 1/6 scale, it's huge. It's not necessarily super wide or super deep, but it is very, very tall. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. I've seen a lot of collectors, heck, including myself, we have cabinets that they're just way too tall. So when we pop 1/6 scale figures in the cabinets, we kinda don't use the vertical space, cause 1/6 scale figures, they're all 1/6 scale, they're the same darn size. We try to experiment with risers and platforms to raise figures up, but with an ATRT, you don't have to. You can pop it in the back, it's going to tower over everyone, it's pretty much going to prop up your ARF Trooper or your General Skywalker, or fingers crossed one day your General Kenobi, whoever you decide to pop on this darn thing. It's, like I said, going to prop them up so you can see them just a little bit better. Then when it comes to the sculpt, super crispy. Hot Toys have gotten this vehicle in 1/6 scale concept down to a science. The lines are sharp. The molds are also very, very sharp. I love the paint applications on top as well. There's a bunch of weathering. I sound like I'm repeating myself, but there are only so many ways to describe this paint finish. It's completely disheveled. There's scratching on the high points, as the clone troopers would be clambering onto the ATRT. There's no time to worry about scuffing paint. They've got to get into battle. They'll be bumping into it, their armor will be colliding, so it kind of makes sense that on all the exposed and raised edges, the paint would be chipped away. The same thing can be said for their armor, because it's once again colliding with the ATRT. Now, the ATRT will be walking around the battlefield, bumping into stuff, stepping on some clankers, so yeah, the completely disheveled and weathered finish works for me. There are also some fuel tanks and some antennas and multiple moving pistons, because this thing is fully articulated. I can't wait to see what that's like in hand when it's eventually out. How stable will it be? On display, it seems like it can hold him up perfectly fine. It's counterbalanced with these big honkin' feet at the bottom, then these very skinny chicken-like legs. Then the top piece would be rather heavy with the ARF trooper on top. It kind of looks like it would want to fall forward, but on display, it's holding the ARF trooper up surprisingly well. It's a very interesting, unique looking vehicle. I wouldn't be surprised if the feet had some proper weight to them. Hot Toys could pop some big chunks of die-cast in the feet to keep this thing planted, and who knows, maybe that's what they've done. We'll have to wait and see when we get this thing in hand. The feet are also absolutely disgusting. They're covered in muck, they're covered in dirt. Maybe this thing's been stomping around Felucia or Seleucami, who knows? It's been on certain planets, I'm sure, and like I said, it's filthy. As you work your way up the legs, it gets a little bit cleaner, but overall, this thing is really nicely painted. I would love to get, by the way, just as a side note, this diorama building thing in the background. It makes for a really nice backdrop, and Hot Toys, maybe consider doing dioramas in the future. I know that for more than a few people, if you could package them up with your clones, they'd probably sell well. Speaking of clones, like I said earlier, you can't buy the ARF Trooper on his own, but you can buy the ATRT separately. Does that mean that people could maybe buy them and pop them with their Jedi figures, General Skywalker perhaps on top of his ATRT? Yes, that would look really cool, but Hot Toys, again, why? I know that more than a few people would buy a bunch of ARF Troopers, including me. Now, if you are looking to pre-order the Heavy Weapons Clone Trooper and Bark Speeder, the ATRT separately, or the ATRT and ARF Trooper, I have popped the links for that in the description below. They are, of course, with ToysWonderland.com. They do have installment plans and a reward system. While you're down there, why not hit that subscribe, bell notification icon, and join button if you like the sound of seeing your name in the end credits of my reviews. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video.